Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Ni hao. Buenos dias. Hesiche. Kwaba. Velkommen. What up, though? This is the weekly recorded recitations of Tobade Gogadao, Holy Scriptures. The date today. 124. Fried at the moment. The date 124.9.30 full Cinco. Anyways, this is portion número I think it's 39. 37. We just finished 2/3 of the way. 37, which is Shlach. This includes within the Torah, Shlach, which is Bimidbar 13:1 a 15:41. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Arjuna Visada Yogehe, which is numero uno. Within the Digha Nikaya, it is the Yusumbarika Sutta, numeros 25. Within the Gospels, it is John 5:6. Within the Quran, it is Surah Ad-Dukan, Surah Al-Jatiyah, and Surah Al-Akaf, which is Surahs 44 a 46, and within the Tao Te Ching, it is chapters 55 a 60. Fasting again today. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah Akbar. Deus noster que es en cielos, santificado nomen tuum, vahegu sanam. Dao kudao fehundao. Ja. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher קיצרנו במצוותיו וציוונו לעסוק בדבר תורה. Kyrie eleison. Silva mastu sabjigatahi. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Pagabia. Undu. Shalom. Fakako. Akwaba. Upendo na amani. Umejaka. Shishe. Kamosumida. Domo arigato. Kedama yelo wakanto. Talk automation group. God, we thank you for all future blessings. Go to God. Ata Jamia Yata Afanani. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Torah. Shlach Bimidbar 13:1 a 15:41. The Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, "Send out for yourself men who will scout the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel. You shall send one man each for his father's tribe. Each one shall be a chieftain in their midst. So Moshe sent them from the desert of Paran by the word of the Lord. All of them were men of distinction. They were the heads of the children of Israel. These are their names. For the tribe of Reuben, Shamuah the son of Zakur. For the tribe of Shimon, Shaphat the son of Hori. For the tribe of Yehuda, Caleb the son of Yefuneh. For the tribe of Issachar, Yigal the son of Yosef. For the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea the son of Nun. For the tribe of Benjamin, Palti the son of Raphu. For the tribe of Zebulun, Gebiel the son of Sodi. For the tribe of Yosef, the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi the son of Susi. For the tribe of Dan, Amiel the son of Gemali. For the tribe of Asher, Setur the son of Machael. For the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi the son of Vophsi. For the tribe of Gad, Geuel the son of Machi. These are the names of the men Moshe sent to scout the land, and Moshe called Hoshea the son of Nun, Yehoshua. Moshe sent them to scout the land of Canaan, and he said to them, Go up this way in the south and climb up the mountain. You shall see what kind of land it is and the people who inhabit it. Are they strong or weak? Are they few or many? And what of the land they inhabit? Is it benevolent or bad? And what of the cities in which they reside? Are they in camps or in fortresses? What is the soil like? Is it fat or lean? Are there any trees in it or not? You shall be courageous and take from the fruit of the land. It was the season when the first grapes begin to ripen. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin until Rehov at the entrance of Hamat. They went up in the south, and he came to Hebron, and there were Ahaman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of the giant. Now Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan of Egypt. They came to the valley of Eshcol, and they cut a branch with a cluster of grapes. They carried it on a pole between two people, and they also took some pomegranates and figs. They called the place of the valley of Eshcol because of the cluster Eshcol the children of Israel cut from there. They returned from scouting the land at the end of 40 days. They went and they came to Moshe and Aaron and all the congregation of the children of Israel in the desert of Paran to Kadesh. They brought them back a report as well as to the entire congregation, and they showed them the fruit of the land. They told him and said, We came to the land to which you sent us, and it is flowing with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. However, the people who inhabit the land are mighty, and the cities are extremely huge and fortified, and there we saw even the offspring of the giant. The Amalekites dwell in the south land, whilst the Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountainous region. The Canaanites dwell on the coast and alongside the Jordan. Caleb silenced the people to hear about Moshe, and he said, We can surely go up and take possession of it, for we can indeed overcome it. But the men who went up with him said, We are unable to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. They spread an evil report about the land which they had scouted, telling the children of Israel, The land we passed through to explore is a land that consumes its inhabitants, and all the people we saw in it are men of stature. There we saw the giants, the son of Anak, descendants from the giants. In our eyes we seemed like grasshoppers, and so we were in their eyes. The entire community raised their voices and shouted, and the people wept on that night. All the children of Israel complained against Moshe and Aaron, and the entire congregation said, If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had died in this desert. Why does the Lord bring us to this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be as spoils. Is it not better for us to return to Egypt? They said to each other, Let us appoint a leader and return to Egypt. Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces before the entire congregation of the children of Israel. Yehoshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Yefuneh, who were amongst those who had scouted the land, tore their clothes. They spoke to the entire congregation of the children of Israel, saying, The land we passed through to scout is an exceedingly benevolent land. If the Lord desires us, Adonai will bring us to this land and give it to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. But you shall not rebel against the Lord, and you will not fear the people of that land, for they are as our bread. Their protection is removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. The congregation threatened to pelt them with stones, but the glory of the Lord appeared in the tent of meeting to all the children of Israel. The Lord said to Moshe, How long will this people provoke me? How much longer will they not believe in me after all the signs I have performed in their midst? I will strike them with a plague and annihilate them. Then I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they. Moshe said to the Lord, but the Egyptians will hear that you have brought this nation out from its midst with great power. They will say about the inhabitants of this land who have heard that you, O Lord, are in the midst of this people, that you, the Lord, appear to them eye to eye, and that your cloud rests over them, and you go before them with a pillar of cloud by day and with a pillar of fire by night. And if you kill this nation like one man, the nations who have heard of your reputation will say as follows, since the Lord lacked the ability to bring this nation to the land which Adonai swore to them, Adonai slaughtered them in the desert. Now please let the strength of the Lord be increased, as you spoke, saying, the Lord is slow to anger and abundantly kind, forgiving iniquity and transgression, who cleanses some and does not cleanse others, who visits the iniquities of parents on children, even to the third and fourth generations. Please forgive the iniquity of this nation in accordance with your abounding kindness, as you have borne this people from Egypt until now. And the Lord said, I have forgiven them in accordance with your word. However, as surely as I live, and as the glory of the Lord fills the earth, that all the people who perceived my glory, and the signs that I performed in Egypt and in the desert, yet they have tested me these 10 times and not listened to my voice. If they will see the land that I swore to their fathers, and all who provoked me will not see it. But as for my servant Caleb, since he was possessed by another spirit, and he followed me, I'll bring him to the land to which he came, and his descendants will drive its inhabitants out. The Amalekites and the Canaanites dwell in the valley. Manana turned back and journey into the desert towards the Sea of Reeds. The Lord spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, how much longer will this evil congregation who are causing to complain against me exist? The complaints of the children of Israel, which they caused them to complain against me, I have heard. Say to them, as I live, says the Lord, if not as you have spoken in my ears, so will I do to you. In this desert your corpses shall fall, your entire number, all those from the age of 20 and up, who were counted because you complained against me. You shall not come into the land concerning which I raised my hand that you would settle in it, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Yehoshua the son of Nun. As for your infants, of whom you said that they will be as spoils, I will bring them there, and they will come to know the land which you despised. But as for you, your corpses shall fall in this desert. Your children shall wander in the desert for 40 years and bear your defection until the last of your corpses has fallen in the desert. According to the number of days which you toured the land 40 days, a day for each year, you will thus bear your iniquities for 40 years. Thus you will come to know my alienation. I, the Lord, have spoken. If I will not do this to the entire evil congregation who have assembled against me, in this desert they will end, and there they will die. As for the men whom Moshe had sent to scout the land, who returned and caused the entire congregation to complain against him by spreading a slanderous report about the land, the men who spread an evil report about the land died in the plague before the Lord. But Yehoshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh remained alive of the men who went to tour the land. Moshe related all these words to the children of Israel, and the people grieved greatly. They arose early in the matin and ascended to the mountaintop, saying, we are ready to go up to the place which the Lord spoke, for we have sinned. Moshe said, why do you transgress the word of the Lord? It will not succeed. Do not go up, for the Lord is not amongst you, so that you will not be beaten by your enemies. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites are there before you, and you will fall by the sword. For you have turned away from the Lord, and the Lord will not be with you. They defiantly ascended to the mountaintop, but the ark of the covenant of the Lord and Moshe did not move from the camp. The Amalekites and the Canaanites who lived on the mountain came down and smote them and crushed them, pursuing them until Homah. The Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, when you arrive in the land of your dwelling place which I am giving you, and you make a fire offering to the Lord, a burnt offering or a sacrifice, namely a peace offering, for an express vow or for a voluntary offering, or on your festivals, to provide a pleasing fragrance for the Lord from the cattle or from the sheep, the one who brings his offering to the Lord shall present a meal offering containing 1/10 fine flour mixed with a quarter of a hin of oil, and a quarter of a hin of wine for a libation you shall prepare with the burnt offering or for the sacrifice for each lamb. Before a ram you shall present a meal offering containing 2/10 fine flour mixed with a third of a hin of oil, and a third of a hin of wine for a libation. You shall offer up a pleasing fragrance to the Lord. If you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering or sacrifice by expressing a vow, or for a peace offering for the Lord, With the young bull he shall offer up a meal offering consisting of 3 tenths fine flour mixed with half a hin of oil. And he shall offer half a hin of wine for a libation, a fire offering of pleasing fragrance to the Lord. So shall it be done for each ox or ram, or for a young sheep or young goat. In accordance with the number you offer up, so shall you present for each one according to their numbers. Every native born shall do it in this manner, to offer up a fire offering of pleasing fragrance to the Lord. If a proselyte resides with you or those amongst you in future generations, and he offers up a fire offering of pleasing fragrance to the Lord, as you make it, so shall he make it. One rule applies to the assembly for yourselves and for the proselyte who resides with you. One rule applies throughout your generations, just as it is for you, so it is for the proselyte before the Lord. There shall be one law and one ordinance for you and the proselyte who resides with you. The Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, When you arrive in the land to which I am bringing you, and you eat from the bread of the land, you shall set aside a gift for the Lord. The first portion of your dough you shall separate a loaf for a gift, as in the case of the gift of the threshing floor, so shall you separate it. From the first portion of your dough you shall give a gift to the Lord in all your generations. And if you should err and not fulfill all these commandments which the Lord spoke to Moshe, all that the Lord commanded you through Moshe from the day on which the Lord commanded, and from then on for all generations. If because of the eyes of the congregation it was committed inadvertently, the entire congregation shall prepare a young bull as a burnt offering for a pleasing fragrance to the Lord, with its prescribed meal offering and libation, and one young he-goat for a sin offering. The Kohen shall atone on behalf of the entire congregation of the children of Israel, and it shall be forgiven them, for it was an error, and they have brought their offering as a fire offering to the Lord, and their sin offering before the Lord because of their error. The entire congregation of the children of Israel and the proselyte who resides with them shall be forgiven for all the people who were in error. But if an individual sins inadvertently, he shall offer up a she-goat in its first year as a sin offering. And the Kohen shall atone for the erring soul which sinned inadvertently before the Lord, so as to atone on his behalf. It shall be forgiven him. One law shall apply to anyone who sins inadvertently from the native born of the children of Israel and the proselyte who resides amongst them. But if a person should act high-handedly, whether he is a native born or a proselyte, he is blaspheming the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from amongst his people. For he has scorned the word of the Lord and violated Adonai's commandment. That soul shall be utterly cut off, for its iniquity is upon it. When the children of Israel were in the desert, they found a man gathering wood on Shabbat. Those who found him gathering wood presented him before Moshe and Aaron and before the entire congregation. They put him under guard, and since it was not specified what was to be done to him, the Lord said to Moshe, The man shall be put to death. The entire congregation shall pelt him with stones outside the camp. So the entire congregation took him outside the camp, and they pelted him to death with stones, as the Lord had commanded Moshe. The Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them that they shall make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and they shall affix a thread sky blue wool on the fringe of each corner. They shall be fringes for you, and when you see it, you will remember all the commandments of the Lord to perform them, and you shall not wander after your hearts and after your eyes, after which you are going astray, so that you shall remember and perform all my commandments, and you shall be holy to your God. I am the Lord your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai. I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna Vishada Yogahe. Numero uno. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, what did Pandu's sons and mine do when, desirous to fight, they assembled on the sacred plain of Kurukshetra? Sanjaya said, on seeing the Pandava army arrayed for battle, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke these words. O teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu arrayed by your talented disciple, the son of Drupada. In that army are mighty archers and heroes in battle equal to Bhima and Arjuna. Yudhana, Virata, and Drupada, each a Maharata. Heroic Dristaketu, Chikitana, and the king of Kasi. Purujit, Kuti, Boja, and Saivya, all the best of men. Powerful Udamanyu, brave Uttamaja, Subhadra's son, and the sons of Drupadi, all Maharatas indeed. O best of the twice born, let me also recount to you the leaders of my own army, those distinguished amongst ourselves. I shall name them, that you may know them all. Yourself and Bhishma and Karna, Kripa, who is ever victorious in war, Asvatthama, Vikama, Jayadratha, and Somadatta's son, and many other heroes besides, armed with many weapons, each well skilled in battle, and all resolved to lay down their lives to serve my cause. But this army of ours, protected by Bhishma, is inadequate, and that army of theirs, protected by Bhima, is adequate. Now take your proper places in front of your martial troops, and protect Bhishma alone. Bhishma, the grandsire, the courageous, the oldest of the Kurus, gave forth a lion roar and blew his conch, causing joy to Duryodhana. Then the conches and kettle drums, tabors, and trumpets and cow horns suddenly blared forth, and the sound was stupendous. Whereupon Madhava and Pandava, seated in their magnificent chariot yoked to white horses, also blew their celestial conches. Rishikesa blew his conch, the Panchajanya, Dhananjaya, the Devadatta, and Vrikodara, the doer of fearful deeds, blew his great conch, the Pandra. King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch, the Anant Avajaya, and Nakula and Sahadeva blew the Sugasha and Manupushpaka. The great archer, the king of Kasi, the great warrior Sikandi, Dristadunya, and Virata, the unconquered Satyaki. Drupada and the sons of Drupadi, and the mighty son of Subhadra, O master of the earth, each blew his own conch. And that tumult, resounding through heaven and earth, rent the hearts of Dhritarashtra's followers. Then, O master of the earth, seeing Dhritarashtra's army standing in battle array, and the clash of arms about to begin, Arjuna, whose ensign bore the device of a monkey, spoke as follows to Krishna. Arjuna said, O Achinta, between the two armies draw up my chariot, that I may behold those who stand there eager to fight, and may know on the eve of battle with whom I must contend. I would observe those who are gathered here to fight, desiring on the field of battle the welfare of the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya said, O Bharata, thus addressed by Gudakesa, Krishna drew up the excellent chariot between the two armies, facing Bhishma, Drona, and all the rulers of the earth, and said, Behold, O Partha, all the crew was here assembled. Then Partha saw arrayed in both the armies, fathers and grandfathers, maternal uncles and brothers, sons and grandsons, comrades and friends, fathers-in-law and teachers. Casting his eyes on all these kinsmen stationed on opposing sides, the son of Kunti was overcome with deep pity and sorrowfully spoke. Arjuna said, O Krishna, at the sight of these my kinsmen assembled here eager to give battle, my limbs fail and my mouth is parched. My body is shaken and my hair stands on end. The bow Gandiva slips from my hand and my skin is on fire. I cannot hold myself steady, my mind seems to whirl. O Kesava, I see omens of evil. Nor do I perceive, O Krishna, any benefit in slaughtering my own people in battle. I desire neither victory nor empire, nor even any pleasure. O Govinda, of what avail to us is an empire, or of what avail are enjoyments and even life itself? Our fathers and uncles, sons and grandsons, fathers-in-law and brothers-in-law, teachers and other relatives, for whose sake we desire kingdom, enjoyments, and pleasures, are arrayed here in battle, having stalked their wealth and lives. These, O Madhusadana, I would not kill, even though they should kill me, even for the sake of sovereignty over the three worlds, how much less for this earth. Janardana, what joy can be ours in killing these sons of Dhritarashtra? Sin alone will possess us if we kill these felons. Therefore we ought not to kill our kinsmen, the sons of Dhritarashtra, for Mandava, how can we ever be happy by killing our own people? Though their understanding overcome by greed, perceive no evil in the decay of families and no sin in hostility to friends, why Janardana? Should not we, who clearly perceive evil in the decay of families, learn to refrain from this sin? With the decay of family perish its dharma, which exists from time out of mind. With the end of the dharma, adharma overwhelms the whole family. When adharma overwhelms the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become corrupt, and when, O Krishna, the women are corrupt, there arises a mixing of castes. The mixture leads into hell, the family itself, as well as those who destroy it. As for their ancestors, fall deprived of the offerings of rice balls and water. By these evil deeds of the destroyers of families, which result in the mixing of castes, the eternal dharma of caste and family are uprooted. We have heard it said, O Janardana, that inevitably the men whose family dharma are destroyed dwell in hell. Alas, we are resolved to commit a great sin, in that we are ready to slay our own kinsmen to satisfy our greed for the pleasure of a kingdom. Much better would it be for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, should slay me in battle, unarmed and unresisting. Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having spoken thus on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrow and sank down on his chariot seat, his mind overcome with grief. Dignikaya, Usumbarika Sutta. Thus have I heard. The Exalted One was once staying near Rajagaha on the Vulture's Peak. Now at that time there was sojourning in Queen Udumbarika's park, assigned to the wanderer Negroda, together with a great company of wanderers, even 3,000. Now the householder Sandana went forth in the afternoon from Rajagaha to call on the Exalted One. Then it occurred to him, it is not timely to call just now on the Exalted One, he will be in retirement. Nor is it the hour for calling on the brethren who are practicing mind culture, they will be in retirement. What if I were to go to Barika's park and find out Negroda the Wanderer? And Sadhana did so. Now at that time Negroda the Wanderer was seated with his large company, all talking with loud voices, with noise and clamor, carrying on childish talk of various kinds, to wit, tales of kings, robbers, and state officials, tales of armies, panics, and battles, talk about foods and drinks and clothes, beds, garlands, and perfumes, talk about relatives, talk about carriages, villages, towns, cities, and countries, talk about women, talk about of heroes, gossip from street corners and the places for drawing water, ghost stories, desultory talk, speculative talk on the world and the sea, on exultance and non-existence, on existence and non-existence. And Negroda the Wanderer saw the householder Sandana approaching in the distance and called his own company to order, saying, Be still, sirs, and make no noise. Here is a disciple of the son of Gautama coming, the householder Sandana. Whatever white-robed lay disciples of Gautama there be dwelling in Rajagaha, this Sandana is one of them. Now these benevolent gentlemen delight in quiet. They are trained in quiet. They speak in honor of quiet. How well it were if seeing how quiet the assembly is, he should see fit to join us. And when he spake thus, the wanderers kept silence. Now the householder Sandana came on to where Negroda the Wanderer was, and exchanged with him the greetings and compliments of civility and courtesy, and sat down beside him. So seated, Sandana said to Negroda, Different is the way in which these reverend wanderers, holding views of their own, talk when they have met and are come together from the practice of the Exalted One. They talk with loud voices, with noise and clamor, carrying on childish talk of various kinds, to wit, tales of kings, robbers, and state officials, tales of armies, panics, and battles, talk about the foods and pleasures, the foods and drinks and clothes, beds, garlands, and perfumes, talk about relatives, talk about carriages, villages, towns, cities, and countries. Like, talk about Women talk of horse heroes, gossip from street corners and the places for drawing water, ghost stories. The sultry talk, speculative talk on the world and the sea, on existence and non-existence. But the Exalted One haunts the lowly and remote recesses of the forest where noise, where sound there hardly is, where the breezes from the pastures blow, yet which are hidden from the eyes of man, suitable for self-communion. And when Sandana had spoken, Negroda to him made answer, Look you now, householder, know you with whom the Samana Gautama talks, with whom he holds conversation? By intercourse with whom does he attain to lucidity and wisdom? The Samana Gautama's insight is ruined by his habit of seclusion. He is not at home in conducting an assembly. He is not ready in conversation. He is occupied only with the fringes of things. Even as the one-eyed cow that walking in circles follows only the outskirts, so is the Samana Gautama. Why so, forsooth, householder? If the Samana Gautama were to come to this assembly with a great question, only could we settle him. Yea, methinks we could roll him over like an empty pot. Now the Exalted One heard with his clairaudient sense of hearing, pure and surpassing that of man, this conversation between Sandana, the householder, and Negroda, the wanderer. And descending from the vulture's peak, he came to the peacock's feeding grove on the bank of the Sumagada, and there walked to and fro in the open air. Then Negroda saw him thus walking, and on seeing him he called his company to order, saying, Be still, sirs, and make no noise. The Samana Gautama is walking to and fro in the open air at the peacock's feeding ground, by the bank of the Sumagada. Now this benevolent gentleman delights in quiet, speaks in praise and honor of quiet, how well it were, if, seeing how quiet the assembly is, he should see fit to join us. If the Samana Gautama should come to this assembly, we might ask him this question. What master is this religion of the Exalted One wherein he trains his disciples, and which those disciples so trained by the Exalted One as to win comfort, acknowledge to be their utmost support and the fundamental principle of righteousness? When he had said this, the wanderers kept silence. Then the Exalted One went up to Negroda the Wanderer, and Negroda spake thus to him. Let the Master of the Exalted One approach. Welcome is the Master, the Exalted One. Long has the Master of the Exalted One taken ere deciding on this step of coming hither. May it please the Master of the Exalted One to take a seat. Here is one ready. The Exalted One sat down on the seat made ready, and Negroda, taking a low seat, sat beside him. To him so seated, the Exalted One spake thus. On what talk, Negroda, are ye here, and now engaged as ye sit together, and what conversation between you have I interrupted? Thereupon Negroda replied to the Exalted One and said, Master, we have just seen the Exalted One walking in the open air by the peacock's feeding ground, by the Sumagada, and seeing him thus, we said, if the Samana Gautama should come to this assembly, we could ask him this question. What master is this religion of the Exalted One What master is this religion of the Exalted One, wherein he trains his disciples, and which those disciples are trained by the Exalted One as to win comfort, acknowledge to be their utmost support and the fundamental principle of righteousness? Difficult is it, Negroda, for one of another view, of another persuasion, of another confession, without practice, without teaching, to understand that where I train my disciples, and which they so train as to win comfort, acknowledge to be their utmost support and the fundamental principle of righteousness. Come now, Negroda, ask me a question about your own doctrine, about austere scrupulousness of life, and what does the fulfillment, and what does the non-fulfillment of these self-mortifications consist? When he had said this, the wanderers exclaimed loudly, with noise and clamor, Wonderful, sir! Marvelous is it, sir! the great gifts and powers of the Samana Gautama, in holding his own theories and inviting the discussion of those of other races. Now the Exalted One heard with his clairaudient sense of hearing, pure and surpassing that of man, this conversation between Sandana, the householder, and Negrota the Wanderer. And descending from the vulture's peak, he came to the peacock's feeding ground on the bank of the Sumagada, and there walked to and fro in the open air. Then Negrota saw him thus walking, and on seeing him he called his company to order, saying, "Be still, sirs, and make no noise. The Samana Gautama is walking to and fro in the open air at the peacock's feeding grove, by the bank of the Sumagada." Now this benevolent gentleman delights in quiet, speaks in praise of quiet. How well it were if, seeing how quiet the assembly is, he should see fit to join us. If the Samana Gautama should come to this assembly, we might ask him this question: what master is this religion of the Exalted One, wherein he trains his disciples, and which those disciples are trained by the Exalted One as to win comfort, acknowledged to be their utmost support, and the fundamental principle of righteousness? When he had said this to the wanderers, he kept silent. Then the Exalted One went up to Negrota the Wanderer, and Negrota spake thus to him: "Let the Master of the Exalted One approach. Welcome is the Master of the Exalted One. Long has the Master of the Exalted One taken air, deciding on this step of coming hither. May it please the Master of the Exalted One to take a seat. Here is one ready." The Exalted One sat down on the seat made ready, and Negrota, taking a low seat, sat beside him. To him so seated the Exalted One spake thus: "On what talk, Negrota, are ye here and now engaged as ye sit together, and what conversation between you have I interrupted?" Thereupon Negrota replied to the Exalted One and said, "Master, we have just seen the Exalted One walking in the open air at the peacock's feeding ground by the Sumagada, and seeing him thus, we said, if the Samana Gautama should come to this assembly, we could ask him this question: what master is this religion of the Exalted One, wherein he trains his disciples, and which those disciples are trained by the Exalted One as to win comfort, acknowledged to be their utmost support, and the fundamental principle of righteousness? Difficult is it, Negrota, for one of another view, of another persuasion, of another confession, without practice, without teaching, to understand that wherein I train my disciples, and which they so trained as to win comfort, acknowledge to be their utmost support, and the fundamental principle of righteousness. Come now, Negrota, ask me a question about your own doctrine, about austere scrupulousness of life, and what does the fulfillment and what does the non-fulfillment of these self-mortifications consist?" When he had said this, the wanderers exclaimed loudly with noise and clamor, "Wonderful, sir! Marvelous is it, sir! The great gifts and powers of the Samana Gautama, in withholding his own theories and inviting the discussion of those of others." Then Negrota bade the wanderers be quiet, and spake thus to the Exalted One: "We, Master, profess self-mortifying austerities. We hold them to be essential, we cleave to them. And what does the fulfillment and what does the non-fulfillment of them consist? Suppose, Negrota, that an ascetic goes Suppose, Negroda, that an ascetic goes naked, is of certain loose habits, licks his hands, respects no approach, sir, nor stop, sir, accepts nothing expressly brought, nor expressly prepared, nor any invitations. He accepts nothing taken from mouth or of cooking pot, nor placed within the threshold, nor within a powder, nor amongst sticks, nor within a kern, nor anything from two eating together, nor from a pregnant woman, nor from a nursing Moor, nor from a woman in intercourse with a man, nor food collected in drought, nor from where a dog is, nor from where flies are swarming, nor will he accept fish or meat, nor strong drink, or intoxicants, or gruel. He is either a one-house or a one-mouthful man, a two-house or a two-mouthful man, a three-house or a three-mouthful man, a four-houser or a four-mouthful man, or a five-houser or a five-mouthful man, a six-houser, a sixth-houser, a six-mouthful man, or a seven-houser or a seven-mouthful man. He maintains himself on one alms, or he maintains himself on two alms, or he maintains himself on three alms, or he maintains himself on four alms, or he maintains himself on five alms, or he maintains himself on six alms, or he maintains himself on seven alms. He takes food once a day, or he takes food once every 2 days, or he takes food once every 3 days, or he takes food once every 4 days, or he takes food once every 5 days, or he takes food once every 6 days, or he takes food once every 7 days. Thus does he dwell addicted to the practice of taking food according to the rule at regular intervals up to even half a month. He feeds either on pot herbs or wild rice, or Navara seeds, or leather parings, or on hata, or on the powder in rice husks, on rice scum, on flour of oil seeds, on grasses, on cow dung, on fruits and roots, from the woods, or on windfalls. He wears coarse hempen cloth, coarse mixture cloth, discarded corpse cloths, discarded rags, or tirta bar cloths, or again he wears antelope hide, or strips the same, netted or crucifiber or fabric, garments, or shale cloth, or human hair blanket, or a horse hair blanket, or an owl's feather garment. He is a hair and beard plucker, addicted to the practice of plucking out both a slander up, a croucher on heels, addicted to exerting himself to move forward when thus squatting, a bed of thorns, man putting iron spikes or thorns on his couch. He utilizes a plank bed, sleeps on the ground, sleeps only on one side, is a dust and dirt wearer and an open air man, a where-you-will sitter, a filth eater, addicted to the practice of eating such, a non-drinker, addicted to the practice of never drinking cold water, an evening for third time man, addicted to the practice of going down into water thrice a day. What think you, Negroda? If these things be so, is the austerity of self-mortification carried out, or is it not? Truly, Master, if these things be so, the austerity of the austerity of self-mortification is carried out, and not the contrary. Now, I, Negroda, affirm that austerity by self-mortification that's carried out involves blemish in several ways. In what way, Master, do you affirm that blemish is involved? In case, Negroda, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity, he through that course becomes self-complacent, his aim is satisfied. Now this, Negroda, becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And then again, Negroda, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity, he through that undertaking exalts himself and despises others. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. Again, Negroda, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity, he through the undertaking becomes inebriated and infatuated and grows careless. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Negroda, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity in procedures for him gifts, it procures for him gifts, attention, and fame. Thereby he becomes complacent and his aim is satisfied. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, by the winning of gifts, attentions, and fame, the ascetic exalts himself, despises others. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, by the winning of gifts, attentions, and fame, he becomes inebriated and infatuated and grows careless. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity, he comes to make a distinction in food, saying, "This suits me, this doesn't suit me." The latter kind he deliberately rejects. Over the former he waxes greedy and infatuated, and cleaves to them, seeing not the danger in them, discerning them not as unsafe, and so enjoys them. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, because of his longing for gifts, attentions, and fame, he thinks, "Rajas will pay me attentions, and so will their officials, so will their nobles, Brahmins, householders, and founders of schools." This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, an ascetic gets grumbling at some recluse or Brahmin, saying, "That man lives on all sorts of things grown from tubers or shoots or berries or joints, or fifthly from seeds, munching them all up together with that wheelless thunderbolt and jawless." That wheelless thunderbolt of a jawbone, and they call him a holy man. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. Puna, and again, Nagota, an ascetic sees a certain recluse or Brahmin receiving attentions, being revered, honored, and presented with offerings by the citizens, and seeing this, he thinks, "The citizens pay attention to this fellow who lives in luxury. They revere and honor him and present him with offerings, whilst to me, who as ascetic live a truly austere life, they pay no attentions, nor reverence, nor honor, nor offerings." And so he cherishes envy and grudging at the citizens. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, an ascetic becomes one who sits in pursuit. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic, when on his round for alms amongst the people, slinks along furtively as if to say, "This part of my austerity, this part of my austerity." This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic affects the mysterious. When asked, "Do you approve of this?" he not approving says, "I do approve," saying this. Thus he consciously tells untruth. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, when the Tathagata or disciple of the Tathagata teaching the Dhamma utilizes a method worthy of appreciation, the ascetic does not appreciate it. This too being a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to lose his temper and bear enmity. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to be hypocritical. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to be deceitful. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to be envious and grudging. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to be cunning and crafty. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to be hard-hearted and vain. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to entertain evil wishes and becomes captive to them. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to entertain false opinions. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to become possessed of empirical dogma. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to misinterpret his experience. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. And again, Nagota, the ascetic is liable to be avaricious and adverse from renunciation. This too becomes a blemish in the ascetic. What think you of this, Nagota? Are these things blemishes in the austerities of self-mortification, or are they not? Verily, Master, these things are blemishes in the austerities of self-mortification. If it is possible, Master, that an ascetic may be possessed even of these blemishes, much further by one or other of them. Now take the opposite case, Nagota. An ascetic undertakes a course of austerity. Through that course he does not become self-complacent, nor are his aims fulfilled. That being so, he is to that degree purified. And then again, Agora, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity, he through that undertaking does not exalt himself, nor despises others. That this being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity, he through that undertaking does not become inebriated and infatuated and grows careless. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity, it procures for him gifts, attention, and fame. He thereby does not become complacent, and his aim is not satisfied. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, by the winning of gifts, attentions, and fame, the ascetic does not exalt himself and despise others. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, by the winning of gifts, attentions, and fame, he does not become inebriated and infatuated and grows careless. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, when an ascetic undertakes a course of austerity, he does not come to make a distinction in food, saying, "This suits me, this doesn't suit me." He does not deliberately reject the latter. Over the former he does not wax greedy and infatuate and cleaves them, seeing not the danger in them, discerning them not as unsafe, and so enjoying them. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, he does not think out of his longing for objects, attentions, and fame. Rajas will pay me attentions, and so will their officials too, and so too will nobles, Brahmins, householders, and founders of schools. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, an ascetic does not grumble at some recluse or Brahmin, saying, "That man lives on all sorts of things." Things grown from tubers or shoots or berries or joints or filthily from seeds, munching them all up together with that wheelless thunderbolt of a jawbone, and they call him a holy man. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, an ascetic sees a certain recluse or Brahmin receiving attentions, being revered, honored, and presented with offerings by the citizens. And seeing this, he does not think the citizens may pay attention to this people, to this fellow who lives in luxury. They revere and honor him and present him with offerings, and whilst to me, who are as ascetic live a truly austere life, they pay no attentions, nor reverence, nor horn, nor offerings. And thus he does not cherish envy and grudging at the citizens. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, an ascetic does not become one who sits in public. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, the ascetic, when on his round for alms amongst the people, does not slink about along furtively, as if to say, "This part of my austerity, this is part of my austerity." This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, the ascetic does not affect the mysterious. When asked, "Do you approve of this?" he not approving says, "I do not," or approving says, "Yes, I do." Herein he avoids telling deliberate untruth. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, when the Tathagata or a disciple of the Tathagata teaching the Dharma utilizes a method worthy of appreciation, the ascetic appreciates it. This being so, he is to that degree purified, and under Agora, the ascetic This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, the ascetic is not liable to be hypocritical. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Agora, the ascetic is not to be liable to deceitful. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Negroda, the ascetic is not liable to be envious and grudging. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Negroda, the ascetic is not liable to be cunning and crafty. This being so, he is to that degree. And again, Negroda, the ascetic is not liable to be hard-hearted and vain. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Negroda, the ascetic is not liable to entertain evil wishes or become captive to them. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Negroda, the ascetic is not liable to entertain false opinions. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Negroda, the ascetic is not liable to become possessed of meta-empirical dogma. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Negroda, the ascetic is not liable to pervert experience. This being so, he is to that degree purified. And again, Negroda, the ascetic is not averse and adverse from renunciation. This being so, he is to that degree purified. What think you, Negroda? That being so, does the austerity by these things become genuinely pure or not? Verily, Master, the austerity of these things becomes genuinely pure and not impure. If it wins topmost rank, it reaches top pit. Nay, Negroda, not yet does the austerity become of the topmost rank, nor reach the pith for that matter, for it has but reached the outside pillars. In what way, Master, does an austerity win topmost? In what way, Master, does an austerity win topmost rank and reach the pith? Well were it if the Exalted One caused my austerity to win topmost rank and reach the pith. Take the case, Negroda, of an ascetic self-restrained by the restraint of the fourfold watch. What is the restraint of the fourfold watch? It is when an ascetic inflicts injury on no living thing, nor causes injury to be inflicted on any living thing, nor approves thereof. He takes not what is not given, nor approves thereof. He utters no lies, nor causes lies to be uttered, nor approves thereof. He craves not for the pleasures of sense, nor leads others to crave for them, nor approves thereof. Now it is thus, Negroda, that the ascetic becomes self-restrained, by the restraint of the fourfold watch. Now in that he is self-restrained, and his austerity is made to consist in this. He advances upwards and turns not back to lower things. He chooses some lowly spot for his seat, in the forest, at the foot of a tree, on the hillside, in a mountain glen, a rocky cave, in the charnel place, or on a heap of straw in open fields. And returning thither after his round for alms, he seats himself when his meal is done, cross-legged, keeping his body erect and his intelligence alert, intent. Putting away the hankering after the world, he abides with unhankering heart, and purifies his mind of covetousness. Putting away the canker of ill will, he abides with the heart free from enmity, benevolent and compassionate towards every living being, and purifies his mind of malevolence. Putting away sloth and torpor, he abides clear of both, conscious of light, mindful and self-possessed. He purifies his mind of sloth and torpor. Putting away flurry and worry, he abides free from excitement. With heart serene within, he purifies his mind of flurry and worry. Putting away doubt, he abides as one who has passed beyond perplexity, no longer in suspense as to what is benevolent. He purifies his mind of doubt. He, having put away these 5 hindrances, and to weaken by insight the strength of the things that defile the heart, abides, letting his mind thought with love pervade 1/4 of the world, and so the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with love, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. And he lets his mind thought with pity pervade 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with pity, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. And he lets his mind thought with sympathy, with joy, pervade 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with sympathy, with joy, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. And he lets his mind thought with equanimity pervade 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with equanimity, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure. Free from hatred and ill will, what think you of this, Nicola? Does austerity by these things become genuinely pure or not? Verily, Master, austerity by these things becomes genuinely pure and not impure, wins topmost rank, and reaches the pit. Nay, Nicola, not yet does the austerity win topmost rank, or reality, for it mattereth not. For that matter, it does but reach into the bark. In what way, Master, does an austerity win top rank, and which the pith? How well it were if the exalted one could make my austerities win top rank and reach the pith. Take the case, Nicola, of an ascetic who is self-restrained by the restraint of the fourfold watch. What is the restraint of the fourfold watch? It is when an ascetic inflicts injury on no living thing, nor causes injury to be inflicted on any living thing, nor approves thereof. He takes not what is not given, nor approves thereof. He utters no lies, nor causes lies to be uttered, nor approves thereof. He craves not for the pleasures of sense, nor leads others to crave for them, nor approves thereof. Now it is thus, Nicola, that the ascetic becomes self-restrained by the restraint of the fourfold watch, and that he is thus self-restrained, and his austerity is made to consist in this: he advances upwards and turns not back to lower things. He chooses some lonely spot for a seat, in the forest, at the foot of a tree, on the hillside, in the mountain glen, on a rocky cave, in the eternal place, or on a heap of straw in the open fields. And returning thither after his round for alms, he seats himself when his meal is done, cross-legged, keeping his body erect, and in his intelligence alert. Intent. Putting away the hankering after the world, he abides with an unhankering heart, and purifies his mind of covetousness. Putting away the canker of ill will, he abides with heart free from enmity, benevolent and compassionate towards every living thing, and purifies his mind of malevolence. Putting away sloth and torpor, he abides clear of conscience, of light, mindful and self-possessed. He purifies his mind of sloth and torpor. Putting away flurry and worry, he abides free from excitement. His heart serene within, he purifies his mind of flurry and worry. Putting away doubt, he abides as one who has passed beyond perplexity. No longer in suspense as to what is benevolent, he purifies his mind of doubt. Having put away those 5 hindrances to weaken by insight the strength of the things that defile the heart, abides having put away those 5 hindrances and to weaken by insight the strength of the things that defile the heart, abides, letting his mind fraught with love pervade 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere and altogether does he continue to pervade with love, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. And he lets his mind fraught with pity pervade 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with pity, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. And he lets his mind fraught with sympathy, with joy, provide 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with sympathy and joy, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. And he lets his mind fraught with equanimity, pervading 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with equanimity, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. He recalls to mind his various temporary states in days gone by, 1 birth, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5 births, or 10, or 20, or 30, or 40, or 50, or 100, or 1,000, or 100,000 births, through many an eon of dissolution, many an eon of evolution, many an eon of both dissolution and evolution. In such a place, such was my name, such my family, such my caste, such my food, such my experience of discomfort or of ease, and such the limits of my life. When I passed away from that state, I took form again in such a place. There I had such and such a name, and family, and caste, and food, and experience of discomfort or ease. Such was the limit of my life. When I passed away from that state, I took form again here. Thus does he call to mind his temporary states in days gone by, in all their details and in all their modes. But think you of that, Nigrota. Does the austerity by these things become genuinely pure or not? Verily, Master, the austerity of these things becomes genuinely pure and not impure, wins topmost rank, and reaches the pit. Nay, Nigrota, not yet does the austerity win to topmost rank and reach the pit, although it does reach the underlying fiber. But in what way, Master, does an austerity reach the top and to the pith? How well it were if the exalted one could make my austerities attain the top and to the pith. Take the senses, Nigrota, of an ascetic who is self-restrained by the restraint of the fourfold watch. What is the restraint of the fourfold watch? It is when an ascetic inflicts injury on no living thing, causes injury to be inflicted on any living thing, nor approves thereof. Adonai takes not what is not given, nor approves thereof. He utters no lies, nor causes lies to be uttered, nor approves thereof. He craves not for the pleasures of sense, nor leads others to crave for them, nor approves thereof. Now it is thus, Nigrota, that the ascetic becomes self-restrained by the restraint of the fourfold watch, and that he is thus self-restrained, and his austerity is made to consist in this: he advances upwards and turns not back to lower things. He chooses some lowly spot for his seat in the forest, at the foot of a tree, on the hillside, in the mountain glen, or rocky cave, in the charnel place, or on a heap of straw in the open fields, and returning thither after his round for alms, he seats himself when his meal is done, cross-legged, keeping his body erect and his intelligence alert, intent. Putting away the hankering after the world, he abides with hankering heart and purifies his mind of covetousness. Putting away the canker of ill will, he abides with heart free from enmity, benevolent and compassion towards every living thing, and purifies his mind of malevolence. Putting away sloth and torpor, he abides clear of both, conscious of light, mindful and self-possessed. He purifies his mind of sloth and torpor. Putting away flurry and worry, he abides free from excitement, with heart serene within. He purifies his mind of flurry and worry. Putting away doubt, he abides as one who has passed beyond perplexity, no longer in suspense as to what is benevolent. He purifies his mind of doubt, having put away those 5 hindrances, and to weaken by insight the strength of the things that defile the heart, abides at letting him fought with love pervade 1/4 of the earth, 1/4 of the world, and so too with the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th, and thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with love, hardened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. And he lets his mind fought with pity pervade 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th, and thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with pity, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will, and he lets his mind fought with sympathy and with joy pervade 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so to the 4th, and so to the 5th wide world corner. And so the whole wide world above. And thus the whole wide world above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with sympathy, with joy, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. And he lets his mind fraught with equanimity pervade 1/4 of the world, and so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, and altogether does he continue to pervade with equanimity, burdened thought, abounding, sublime, and beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. He recalls to mind his various temporary states in days gone by, one birth, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5 births, or 10, or 20, or 30, or 40, or 50, or 100, or 100, or 100,000 births, through many an eon of dissolution, many an eon of evolution, many an eon of both dissolution and evolution. In such a place, such was my name, such my family, such my caste, such my food, such my enemies of, such my experience of discomfort or ease, and such the limits of my life. When I passed from that state, I took form again in such a place. There I had such and such a name and family and caste and food and experience of comfort or of ease. Such was the limit of my life. When I passed away from that state, I took form again here. Thus does he call to mind his temporary. Thus does he call to mind his temporary states in days gone by in all their details and in all their modes. He, with the pure deva vision, surpassing that of men, he sees beings as they pass away from one before of existence and take shape in another. He recognizes the mean and the noble, the well-favored and the ill-favored, the happy and the wretched, passing away according to their deeds. Such and such worthy folk, evildoers in act and word and thought, revilers of the Aryans, holding to wrong views, acquiring for themselves that karma which results from wrong views, beyond the dissolution of the body after death, are reborn in some unhappy state of suffering or woe. But such and such beings, benevolent in act and word and thought, no revilers of the Aryans, holding to right views, acquiring for themselves that karma that results from right views, they, on the dissolution of the body after death, are reborn in some happy state in heaven. Thus, with the pure deva vision, surpassing that of men, he sees beings as they pass away from one state of existence and take a form in another. He recognizes the mean and the noble, the well-favored and the ill-favored, the happy and the wretched, passing away according to their deeds. What think you of that, Nagota? Does austerity by these things become genuinely pure or not? Verily, Master, by these things becomes genuinely pure and not impure. It wins topmost rank and reaches the pith. Thus, Nagota, does austerity win topmost rank and reach the pith. And so, Nagota, when you say to me, what, Master, is the religion of the Exalted One, wherein he trains his disciples, and which those disciples so trained by the Exalted One as to win comfort acknowledge to be their utmost support and the fundamental principle of righteousness? I say that it is a matter of a higher and further excellent degree wherein I train my disciples, so that they, so trained by me therein as to find comfort, acknowledge it to be their utmost support and the fundamental principle of righteous living. When he had thus said, the wanderers raised a clamor, exclaiming loudly and noisily, Herein are we and our teachers set at naught. We know of nothing beyond their teaching that is higher. And the householder Sandana recognized Surely now these wanderers, though of other views, are listening to what the Exalted One has said, and are paying attention, are applying their minds to understand. He then spake thus to Nagota. You were saying to me just now, Nagota, look you now, householder, know you with whom the Samana Gautama talks, with whom he holds conversation, by intercourse with whom does he attain to lucidity and wisdom? The Samana Gautama's insight is ruined by his habit of seclusion. He is not at home in conducting an assembly. He is not ready in conversation. He is occupied only with the fringes of things. Even as a one-eyed cow that walking in a circle follows ever the outskirts, so is the Samana Gautama. Why, forsooth, householder, if a Samana Gautama were to come to this assembly with a single question, only could we settle him. Methinks we would roll him over like an empty pot. Now when the Master, the Exalted One, the Arhat, Buddha Supreme, has arrived amongst us, show ye him as not at home in an assembly. Show him to be as a one-eyed cow walking in a circle. With your vision question settle him now. Roll him over, methinks, like an empty pot. When he had thus spoken, Nagota sat silently and annoyed, with hunchback, backing and drooping head, brooding and dumbfounded. Now when the Exalted One perceived Nagoda silent and annoyed, with hunchback and drooping head, brooding and dumbfounded, he said, "Is it true, Nagoda, that you made this speech?" "It is true, master, that I made that speech. So foolish was I, so stupid, so wrong." "What think you of this, Nagoda? Have you ever heard it said by wanderers who were venerable ages, by your teachers and teachers of your teachers thus?" They who in past ages were Arhats, Buddha Supreme, forsooth, those exalted ones, when they were met at assembled, used to talk with loud voices, with noise and clamors, carrying on childish talk of various kinds. To wit, tales of kings, robbers, and state officials, tales of armies, panics, and battles, talk about foods and drinks and clothes, beds, garlands, and perfumes, talk about relatives, talk about carriages, tower, villages, towns, cities, and countries, talk about women, talk of heroes, gossiping from street corners, and the places for drawing water, ghost stories, desultory talk, speculative talk on the world and the sea, on existing and non-existing, as you and your teachers do now. Or did they say, "Thus were those exalted ones wont to haunt the lonely, remote recesses of the forest, where noise, where sound there hardly is, where breezes from the pastures blow, yet which were hidden from the eyes of men, meet for self-communing, even now, as I do now. O master, I have heard it said by wanderers who were venerable old teachers, and well stricken of our teachers thus: They who in past ages were Arhats, Buddha Supreme, not theirs was it when met and assembled to talk with loud voices, with noise and clamor, carrying on childish talk of various kinds, to wit, tales of kings, robbers, and state officials, tales of armies, panics, and battles, talk about foods and drinks, and clothes, beds, garlands, and perfumes, talk about relatives, talk about carriages, villages, towns, cities, and countries, talk about women, talk of heroes, gossip from street corners, and a place for drawing water, ghost stories, desultory talk, speculative talk on the world and seeing and the sea, on existence and non-existence, even as I do now in my own persuasion, but theirs is to haunt the lonely, remote recesses of the forest, where noise, where sound there hardly is, where breezes from the pastures blow, yet which were hidden from the eyes of men, meeting for self-communing, even as the Exalted One does now. You yourself, Nagoda, being intelligent and advanced in years, has not this occurred to you? Enlightened is the Exalted One. He teaches the religion of enlightenment. Self-mastered is the Exalted One. He teaches the religion of self-mastery. Calm is the enlightened one. He teaches the religion of calm. Saved is the enlightened one. He teaches the religion of salvation. At peace is the Exalted One, is the enlightened one. He teaches the religion of peace. When this was said, Nagoda the Wanderer spake thus to the Exalted One: An offense has overcome me, master, foolish and stupid and wrong that I am. He spoke thus about the Exalted One: May the Exalted One accept it of me, master, that do so acknowledge it as an offense, to the end that in future I may restrain myself. Verily, Nagoda, it was an offense that overcame you in allotting Verily, Nagoda, it was an offense that overcame. When this was said, Nagoda the Wanderer spake thus to the Exalted One: An offense has overcome me, master, foolish and stupid and wrong that I am. He spoke thus about the Exalted One: May the Exalted One accept it of me, master, that I do so acknowledge it as an offense, to the end that it may, in future, I may restrain myself. Verily, Nagoda, it was an offense that overcame you in acting thus, foolish and stupid and wrong that you were, in that you spake thus of me, and inasmuch as you, Nagoda, looking upon it as an offense, confess according to your deeds, we accept your confession. For that, Nagoda, is custom in the discipline of the Aryans, that whosoever looks upon his fault as a fault, and if he confesses it, shall be in the future attain to self-restraint. But I, Nagoda, say this to you: Let a man of intelligence come to me who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him. I'll give him the Dharma. If he practices it according as he is taught, then to know himself and to realize, even here and now, that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 7 years. Nay, Nagorda, he let them be 7 years. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 6 years. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 6 years. Let a man of intelligence come to me, with who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state. They will take him 5 years. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 5 years. Let a man of intelligence take who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 4 years. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 4 years. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 3 years. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 3 years. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 2 years. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 2 years. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 1 year. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 1 year. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 6 months. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 6 months. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know him for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from household life into the homeless state, will take him 5 months. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 5 months. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 4 months. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 4 months. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 3 months. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 3 months. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 2 months. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 2 months. Let a man of intelligence come to me, who is honest, candid, straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him 1 month. Nay, Nagorda, let be the 1 month. Let a man of intelligence come forth to me, who is honest, candid, and straightforward. I will instruct him, I will teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself and realize even not here and now that supreme religion and goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state, will take him half a month. Nay, Negroda, let be the half month. Let a man of intelligence come to me who is honest, candid, straightforward. I'll instruct him and teach him the Dharma. If he practice according as he is taught, then to know for himself, realize even here and now that supreme religion and goal for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the halls of life into the homeless state, he will take him 7 days. Maybe, Negroda, you will think the Samana Gautama has said this from a desire to get pupils, but you are not thus to explain my words. Let him who is your teacher be your teacher still. Maybe, Negroda, you will think the Samana Gautama has said this from a desire to make us secede from our rule, but you are not thus to explain my words. Let that which is your rule be your rule still. Maybe, Negroda, you will think the Samana Gautama has said this from a desire to make us secede from our mode of livelihood, but you are not thus to explain my words. Let that which is your mode of livelihood be so still. Maybe, Negroda, you will think the Samana Gautama has said this from a desire to confirm us as to such points of our doctrines as are wrong and reckoned as wrong by those in our community, but you are not thus to explain my words. That those points in your doctrines which are wrong and reckoned as wrong by those in your community remain so still for you. Maybe, Negroda, you will think the Samana Gautama has said this from a desire to detach us from such points in our doctrines as are benevolent, reckoned as benevolent by those in our community, but you are not thus to explain my words. That those points in your doctrines which are benevolent, reckoned to be benevolent by those in your community, remain so. Wherefore, Negroda, I speak thus. Neither because I wish to gain pupils, nor because I wish to cause secede from rule, nor because I wish to cause seceding from mode of livelihood, nor because I wish to confirm you in bad doctrines or detach you from benevolent doctrines. But, O Negroda, there are bad things not put away, corrupting, entailing, birth, renewal, bringing suffering, resulting in ill, making for birth, decay, and death in the future, and it is for the putting away of these that I teach the Dharma, according to which, if ye do walk the way, the things that corrupt shall be put away, the things that make for purity shall grow and flourish, and ye shall attain to and abide in, each one for himself, even here and now, the understanding and the realization of full and abounding insight. When he had thus said, the wanderer sat silent and annoyed, with hunchback and drooping head, brooding and dumbfounded. So were their hearts driven over to Mara. And the exalted one thought, every one of these foolish men is pervaded by the evil one, so that not even one of them will a thought occur. Come, let us now live the holy life taught by the Samana Gautama, that we may learn to know it. What does an interval of 7 days matter? Then the exalted one, having uttered his lion's roar in the park, Queen Unubarika had assigned to the wanderers, rose up and went through the air and alighted on the vulture's peak, and then, too, this householder Samagida returned to Rajagaha. Gospels, John 5:6. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish brethren festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5-cornered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. Whilst I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, Get up, pick up your mat and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was Shabbat. So the Jewish brethren leaders said to the man who had been healed, "It is Shabbat. The law forbids you to carry your mat." But he replied, "The man who made me well said to me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" So they asked him, "Who is this fellow who told you to pick it up and walk?" The man who was seated had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. Later, Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." The man went away and told the Jewish brethren and leaders that it was Jesus who had made him well. So because Jesus was doing these things on Shabbat, the Jewish brethren and leaders began to persecute him. In his defense, Jesus said to them, "My Creator is always at God's work to this very day, and I too am working." For this reason, they tried all the further to kill him. Not only was he breaking Shabbat, but he was even calling God his own Creator, making himself equal with God. Jesus gave them this answer: "Very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Creator doing, because whatever the Creator does, the Son also does. For the Creator loves the Son and shows him all God does. Yes, and God will show him even greater works than these, so that you will be amazed. For just as the Creator raises the dead and gives them life, even so the Son gives life to whom he is pleased to give it. Further, the Creator judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son just as they honor the Creator. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Creator who sent him. Very truly I tell you, whoever hears my word and believes God who sent me has eternal life. I will not be judged, but has crossed over from death to life. Very truly I tell you, a time is coming, and now has come, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. For as the Creator has life in God, so God has created the Son also to have life in himself. And God has given him authority to judge because he is the Son of Man. Do not be amazed at this, for a time is coming when all who are in their graves will hear his voice, and come out. Those who have done what is benevolent will rise to live, and those who have done what is evil will rise to be condemned. By myself I can do nothing. I judge only as I hear, and my judgment is just. For I seek not to please myself, but God who sent me. If I testify about myself, my testimony is not true. Therefore, there is another one who testifies in my favor, and I know that his testimony about me is true. You have sent to John, and he has testified to the truth. Not that I accept human testimony, but I mention it that you may be saved. John was a lamp that burned and gave light, and you chose for a time to enjoy his light. I have testimony weightier than that of John, for the works that the Creator has given me to finish, the very works that I am doing, testify that the Creator has sent me. And the Creator who sent me has, by God, testified concerning me. You have never heard God's voice, nor seen God's form. Nor does God's word dwell in you, for you do not believe in the one God sent. You study the scriptures diligently because you think that in them you have eternal life. These are the very scriptures that testify about me. Yet you refuse to come to me to have life. I do not accept glory from human beings, but I know you. I know that you do not have the love of God in your hearts. I have come in my Creator's name, and you do not accept me, but if someone else comes in his own name, you will accept him. How can you believe, since you accept glory from one another, but do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? But do not think I will accuse you before the Creator. Your accuser is Moshe, on whom your hopes are set. If you believe Moshe, you would believe me, for he wrote about me. But since you do not believe what he wrote, how are you going to believe what I say? Some time after this, Jesus crossed the distant shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is, the Sea of Tiberias. And a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish brethren Pesach festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming towards him, he said, "Philip, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered, "It would take further than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Shimon, Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how distant will they go among so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There they there was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted, even had the same with the fish. Even he did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the portions that are left over, let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with portions of the 5 barley loaves, left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who has come into the world." Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. When evening came, his disciples went down to the lake, where they got into a boat and set off across the lake for Capernaum. By now it was dark, and Jesus had not yet joined them. A strong wind was blowing, and the waters grew rough. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus approaching the boat, walking on water, and they were frightened. But he said to them, "It is I, don't be afraid." Then they were willing to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the shore where they were heading. The next day the crowd that had stayed on the opposite shore of the lake understood that only one boat had been there, and that Jesus had not entered it with his disciples, but that they had gone away alone. And some boats from Tiberias landed near the place where the people had eaten the bread after the master had given thanks. Once the crowd understood that neither Jesus nor his disciples were there, they got into the boat and went to Capernaum in search of Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the lake, they asked him, "Rabbi, when did you get here?" Jesus answered, "Very truly I tell you, you are looking for me not because you saw the signs I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. Do not work for food that spoils, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For on him God the Creator has placed God's seal of approval." Then they asked him, "What must we do to do the works God requires?" Jesus answered, "The work of God is this, to believe in the one God has sent." So they asked him, "What sign then will you give that we may see it and believe you? But what will you do?" Our answers: "Ate the manna in the wilderness, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat." Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, it is not Moshe who has given you the bread from life, but it is my Creator who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is the bread that comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." "Sir," they said, "always give us this bread." Then Jesus declared, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. But as I told you, you have seen me, and still you do not believe. All those the Creator gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never drive away. For I have come down from heaven not to do my will, but to do the will of God who sent me. And this is the will of God who sent me, that I should lose none of all those God has given me, but raise them up at the last day." For my Creator's will is that everyone who looks to the Son and believes in him shall have eternal life, and I will raise them up at the last day. At this the Jewish brethren there began to grumble about him, because he said, "I am the bread that came down from heaven." They said, "Is this not Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose far and more we know? How can he say now, 'I came down from heaven'?" "Stop grumbling amongst yourselves," Jesus answered. "No one can come to me unless the Creator who sent me draws them, and I will raise them up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, they will all be taught by God. Everyone who has heard the Creator and learned from God comes to me. No one has seen the Creator except the one who is from God. Only he has seen the Creator. Very truly I tell you, the one who believes has eternal life. I am the bread of life. Your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, yet they died. But here is the bread that comes down from heaven, which anyone may eat and not die. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. This bread is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. Then the Jewish brethren began to argue sharply amongst themselves. How can this man give us his flesh to eat? Jesus said to them, Very truly I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life. You have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise them up at the last day. For my flesh is true food, and my blood is true drink. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in them. Just as the living Creator sent me, and I live because of the Creator, so the one who feeds on me will live because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven. Your ancestors ate manna and died, but whoever eats on this bread will live forever. He said this whilst teaching in the synagogue in Capernaum. On hearing it, many of his disciples said, This is a hard teaching. Who can accept it? Aware that his disciples were grumbling about this, Jesus said to them, Does this offend you? Then what if you see the Son of Man ascend to where he was before? The Spirit gives life, the flesh counts for nothing. The words I have spoken to you, they are full of the Spirit of life. Yet there are some of you who do not believe, for Jesus had known from the beginning which of them did not believe and who would betray him. He went on to say, This is why I told you that no one can come to me unless the Creator has enabled them. From this time many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. You do not want to leave too, do you? Jesus asked the 12. Simon Peter answered him, Master, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and to know that you are the Holy One of God. Then Jesus replied, Have I not chosen you, the 12? Yet one of you is the devil. He meant Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, who, though one of the 12, was later to betray him. Quran, Surah Al-Dukan, Surah Al-Jadiyah, Surah Al-Akaf, 44 a 46. Al-Dukan, 44. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hamim. By the book that makes things clear, we sent it down during a blessed night, for we ever wish to warn against evil. In the night is made distinct every affair of wisdom, by command from our presence, for we ever send revelations, as mercy from thy Lord, for Allah hears and knows all things. The Lord of the heavens and the earth, and all between them, if ye but have an assured faith. There is no deity but Allah. It is Allah who gives life and gives death, the Lord and cherisher to you and your earliest ancestors. Yet they play about in doubt. Then watch thou for the day that the sky will bring forth a kind of smoke or mist, plainly visible, enveloping the people. This will be a penalty grievous. They will say, Our Lord, remove the penalty from us, for we do truly believe. How shall the message be effectual for them, seeing that a messenger explaining things clearly has already come to them? Yet they turn away from him and say, Tutored by others, a man possessed. We shall indeed remove the penalty for a while, but truly ye will revert to your ways. One day we shall seize you with a mighty onslaught. We will indeed then exact retribution. We did before them try the people of Pharaoh. There came to them an apostle most honorable, saying, Restore to me the servants of Allah. I am to you an apostle worthy of all trust. And be not arrogant as against Allah, for I come to you with authority manifest. For me I have sought safety with my Lord and your Lord against your injuring me. If ye believe me not, at least keep yourselves away from me. But they were aggressive. Then he cried to his Lord, These are indeed a people given to sin. The reply came, March forth with my servants by night, for ye are sure to be pursued. And leave the sea as a furrow divided, and they are a host destined to be drowned. How many were the gardens and springs they left behind, and cornfields and noble buildings, and wealth and convenience of life wherein they had taken such delight. Thus was their end, and we made other people inherit those things. And neither heaven nor earth shed a tear over them, nor were they given a respite again. We did deliver aforetime the children of Israel from humiliating punishment, inflicted by Pharaoh, for he was arrogant even amongst inordinate transgressors. And we chose them aforetime above the nations knowingly, and granted them signs in which there was a manifest trial. As to these Koresh, they say, Forsooth, There is nothing beyond our first death, and we shall not be raised again. Then bring back our forefathers if what ye say is true. What, are they better than the people of Tuba and those who were before them? We destroyed them because they were guilty of sin. We created not the heavens, the earth, and all between them merely in idle sport. We created them not except for just ends, but most of them do not understand. Verily, the day of sorting out is the time appointed for all of them. The day when no protector can avail his client in aught, and no help can they receive, except such as receive Allah's mercy, for Allah is exalted in might, most merciful. Verily, the tree of Zakum will be the food of the sinful. Like molten brass, it will boil in their insides, like the boiling of scalding water. A voice will cry, seize ye him, and drag him into the midst of the blazing fire. Then pour over his head the penalty of boiling water. Taste thou this, truly wast thou mighty, full of honor. Truly this is what ye should doubt. As to the righteous, they will be in a position of security amongst gardens and springs. Dressed in fine silk and in rich brocade, they will face each other. So, and we shall join them to companions with beautiful, big, and lustrous eyes. There can they call for every kind of fruit in peace and security. Nor will they there taste death except the first death, and Allah will preserve them from the penalty of the blazing fire. It is a bounty from thy Lord that will be the supreme achievement. Verily, we have made this Quran easy in thy tongue, in order that ye may give heed. So wait thou and watch, for they too are waiting. Surah Al-Jatiyah, 45. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ameen. The revelation of the book is from Allah, the exalted in power, full of wisdom. Verily, in the heavens and the earth are signs for those who believe, and in the creation of yourselves and the fact that animals are scattered throughout the earth are signs for those who have assured faith, and the alternation of night and day, and the fact that Allah sends down sustenance from the sky and revives therewith the earth after its death, and in the change of the winds are signs for those that are wise. Such are the signs of Allah, which we rehearse to thee in truth. Then in what exposition will they believe after rejecting Allah and Allah's signs? Woe to each sinful dealer in falsehoods. He hears the signs of Allah rehearsed to him, yet is obstinate and lofty as if he had not heard them. Then announce to him a penalty grievous. And when he learns something of our signs, he takes them in jest, for such there will be a humiliating penalty. In front of them is hell, and of no benefit to them is anything they may have earned, nor any protectors they may have taken to themselves besides Allah. For them is a tremendous penalty. This is true guidance, and for those who reject the signs of their Lord is a grievous penalty of abomination. It is Allah who has subjected the sea to you, that ships may sail through it by Allah's command, that you may seek of Allah's bounty, and that you may be grateful. Allah has subjected to you as from Allah all that is in the heavens and on earth. But behold, in that are signs indeed for those who reflect. Tell those who believe to forgive those who do not look forward to the days of Allah. It is for Allah to recompense for benevolence or ill each people according to what they have earned. If anyone does a righteous deed, it inures to the benefit of his soul. If he does evil, it works against his own soul. In the end will ye all be brought back to your Lord. We did aforetime grant to the children of Israel the book, the power of command, and prophethood. We gave them for sustenance things benevolent and pure, and we favored them above the nations. And we granted them clear signs in affairs of religion. It was only after knowledge had been granted to them that they fell into schisms through insolent envy amongst themselves. Verily thy Lord will judge between them on the day of judgment as to those matters in which they set up differences. Then we put thee on the right way of religion, so follow thou the way, and follow not the desires of those who know not. They will be of no utilization to thee in the sight of Allah. It is only wrongdoers that stand as protectors one to another, but Allah is the protector of the righteous. These are clear evidences to men, and a guidance and mercy to those of assured faith. What do those who seek after evil ways think that we shall hold them equal with those who believe and do righteous deeds? that equal will be their life and their death. Ill is the judgment that they make. Allah created the heavens and the earth for just ends, and in order that each soul may find the recompense of what it has earned, and none of them be wrong. Then seest thou such a one as takes as his deity his own vain desire? Allah has, knowing him as such, left him astray and sealed his hearing and his heart and understanding, and put a cover on his sight. Who then will guide him after Allah has withdrawn guidance? Will ye not then receive admonition? And they say, What is there but our life in this world? We shall die and we live, and nothing but time can destroy us. But of that they have no knowledge, they merely conjecture. And when our clear signs are rehearsed to them, their argument is nothing but this. They say, Bring back our forefathers, if what ye say is true. Say, It is Allah who gives you life, then gives you death, then Allah will gather you together for the day of judgment, about which there is no doubt, but most men do not understand. To Allah belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and the day that the hour of judgment is established, that day will the dealers in falsehood perish. And thou will see every sect bowing the knee, every sect will be called to its record. This day shall ye be recompensed for all that ye did. This our record speaks about you with truth, for we were wont to put on record all that you did. And as to those who believed and did righteous deeds, their Lord will admit them to Allah's mercy. That will be the achievement for all to see. But as for those who reject Allah, to them will be said, Were not our signs rehearsed to you, but you were arrogant and were people given to sin. And when it is said that the promise of Allah was true and that the hour there was no doubt about its coming, you used to say, We know not what is the hour, we only think it is an idea, and we have no firm assurance. Then will appear to them the evil fruits of what they did, and they will be completely encircled by that which they used to mock at. It will also be said, This day will we forget you as ye forgot the meeting of this day of yours, and your abode is the fire, and no helpers have you. This because ye used to take the signs of Allah in jest, and the life of the world deceives you. From that day, therefore, they shall not be taken out thence, nor shall they be received into grace. Then praise be to Allah, Lord of the heavens and Lord of the earth, Lord and cherisher of all the worlds. To Allah be glory throughout the heavens and the earth, and Allah is exalted in power, full of wisdom. Surah Al-Aqaf. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ameen. The revelation of the book is from Allah, the exalted and powerful of wisdom. We created not the heavens and the earth and all between them, but for just ends and for eternal appointed, but those who reject faith turn away from that whereof they are warned. Say, Do ye see what it is ye invoke besides Allah? Show me what it is they have created on earth, or have they a share in the heavens to bring me a book revealed before this, or any remnant of knowledge you may have if ye are telling the truth. And who is further astray than one who invokes Allah, besides Allah, such as will not answer him to the day of judgment, and who in fact are unconscious of their call to them. And when mankind are gathered together as at the resurrection, they will be hostile to them and reject their worship altogether. When our clear signs are rehearsed to them, the unbelievers say of the truth, when it comes to them, this is evident sorcery. Or do they say Allah has forged it? Or do they say He has forged it? Say, Had I forged it, then can ye obtain no single blessing for me from Allah. Allah knows best all that whereof ye talk so glibly. Enough is Allah for a witness between me and you, and Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Say, I am no bringer of newfangled doctrine amongst the apostles, nor do I know what will be done with me or with you. I follow but that which is revealed to me by inspiration. I am but a warner, open and clear. Say, See ye, if this teaching be from Allah, and ye reject it, and a witness from among the children of Israel testifies to its similarity with earlier scripture, and has believed whilst ye are arrogant, how unjust ye are. Truly Allah guides not a people unjust. The unbelievers say of those who believe, If this message were a benevolent thing, such men would not have gone to it first before us. and seeing that the guide not him themselves thereby, they will say, this is an old falsehood. And before this was the book of Moshe as a guide and a mercy, and this book confirms it in the Arabic tongue to admonish the unjust and as glad tidings to those who do right. Verily those who say, our Lord is Allah, and remain firm on that path, on them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. Such shall be the companions of the gardens dwelling therein, for I, a recompense for their benevolent deeds. We have enjoined on men kindness to his parents. In pain did his mother bear him, and in pain did she give him birth. The carrying of the child to his weaning is a period of 30 months. At length, when he reaches the age of full strength and remains 40 years, he says, O my Lord, grant me that I may be grateful for thy favor which thou hast bestowed upon me, and upon both my parents, and that I may work righteousness such as thou mayest approve, and be gracious to me in my issue. Truly have I turned to thee, and truly do I bow to thee in Islam. Such are they from whom we shall accept the best of their deeds and pass by their ill deeds. They shall be amongst the companions of the garden of promise, of truth, which was made to them in this life. But there is one who says to his parents, Fie on you, do ye hold out the promise to me that I shall be raised up, even though generations have passed before me without rising again? And they too seek Allah's aid and rebuke the son. Woe to thee, have faith, for the promise of Allah is true. But he says, this is nothing but tales of the ancients. Such are they against whom is proved the sentence amongst the previous generations of jinns and men that have passed away, for they will be utterly lost. And to all are assigned degrees according to their deeds which they have done, and in order that Allah may recompense their deeds, and no injustice be done to them. And on the day that unbelievers will be placed before the fire, it will be said to them, you received your benevolent things in the life of the world, and you took your pleasure out of them. But today shall ye be recompensed with a penalty of humiliation, for that ye were arrogant on earth without just cause, and that ye ever transgressed. Mention Hud, one of Ad's own brethren. Behold, he warned his people about the winding sand tracks, but there have been warners before him and after him. Worship ye none other than Allah. Truly I fear for you the penalty of a mighty day. They said, hast thou come in order to turn us aside from our deities? Then bring up us the calamity with which thou dost threaten us, if thou art telling the truth. He said, the knowledge of when it will come is only with Allah. I claim to you the mission on which I have been sent, but I see that ye are a people of ignorance. Then when they saw the penalty, in the shape of a cloud, traversing the sky, coming to meet their valleys, they said, this cloud will give us rain. Nay, it is the calamity you were asking to be hastened, a wind wherein is a grievous penalty. Everything will it destroy by the command of its Lord. Then by the Matan, nothing was to be seen but the ruins of their houses. Thus do we recompense those given to sin. And we had firmly established them in a prosperity and power which we have not given to you, ye Koresh. And we had endowed them with faculties of hearing, seeing, heart, and intellect, but of no benefit to them were the faculties of hearing, sight, and heart, and intellect, when they went on rejecting the signs of Allah, and they were completely encircled by that which they used to mock at. We destroyed aforetime populations round about you, and we have shown the signs in various ways that they may turn to us. Why then was no help forthcoming to them from those whom they worshipped as deities besides Allah, as a means of access to Allah? Nay, they left them in the lurch, but that was their falsehood and their invention. Behold, we turned towards thee a company of jinns quietly listening to the Quran. When they stood in the presence thereof, they said, listen in silence. When the reading was finished, they returned to their people to warn them of their sins. They said, O our people, we have heard a book revealed after Moshe, confirming what came before it, and guides men to the truth and to a straight path. And our people, hearken to the one who invites you to Allah and believes in Him. And believes in Allah. Allah will forgive you your faults and deliver you from a penalty grievous. If any does not hearken to the one who invites us to Allah, he cannot frustrate Allah's plan on earth, and no protectors can he have besides Allah. Such men wander in manifest error. See they not that Allah, who created the heavens and the earth, wearied with their creation, is able to give life to the dead? Yea, verily, Allah has power over all things. And on the day that the unbelievers will be placed before the fire, they will be asked, is this not the Torah? They will say, yea, by our Lord. We will say, then taste ye the penalty for that ye were wont to deny truth. Therefore patiently persevere, as did all apostles of the flexible purpose, and be in no haste about the unbelievers. On the day that they see the punishment promised them, it will be as if they had not tarried further than an hour in a single day. Thine but only to proclaim the message, but shall any be destroyed except those who transgress. Dating 55 a 60. 55. Those who hold an abundance of virtue are similar to newborn infants. Poisonous insects do not sting them, wild beasts do not claw them, birds of prey do not attack them. Their bones are weak, tendons are soft, but their grasp is firm. They do not know of sexual union, but can manifest affection due to the optimum of essence. They can cry the whole day and yet not be hoarse, due to the optimum of harmony. Knowing harmony is said to be constancy. Knowing constancy is said to be clarity. Excessive vitality is said to be inauspicious. Mind overutilizing energy is said to be aggressive. Things become strong and then grow old. This is called contrary to the Tao. That which is contrary to the Tao will soon perish. Sequela 6. Those who know do not talk. Those who talk do not know. Close the mouth, shut the doors, blunt the sharpness, unravel the knots, dim the glare, mix the dust. This is called mystic oneness. They cannot obtain this and be closer. They cannot obtain this and be distant. They cannot obtain this and be benefited. They cannot obtain this and be harmed. They cannot obtain this and be valued. They cannot obtain this and be degraded. Therefore they become honored by the world. Govern a country with upright integrity. Deploy the military with surprise tactics. Take the world with non-interference. How do I know this is so? With the following. When there are many restrictions in the world, the people become further impoverished. When people have many sharp weapons, the country becomes further chaotic. When people have many clever tricks, further strange things occur. The further laws are posted, the further robbers and thieves there are. Therefore the sage says, I take unattached action, and the people transform themselves. I prefer quiet, and the people right themselves. I do not interfere, and the people enrich themselves. I have no desires, and the people simplify themselves. When governing is lackluster, the people are simple and honest. When governing is scrutinizing, the people are shrewd and crafty. Misfortune is what fortune depends upon. Fortune is where misfortune hides beneath. Who knows their ultimate end? They have no determined outcome. Rightness reverts to become strange, benevolence reverts to become wicked. The confusion of people has lasted many long days, therefore the sages are righteous without being scathing, incorruptible without being piercing, straightforward without being ruthless, illuminated without being flashy. In governing people and serving heaven, there is nothing like conservation. Only with conservation is it called submitting early. Submitting early is called emphasis on accumulating virtues. Accumulating virtues means there is nothing one cannot overcome. When there is nothing that one cannot overcome, one's limits are unknown. The limitations being unknown, one can possess sovereignty. With this more principle of power, one can be everlasting. This is called deep roots and firm affection. This is called deep root and firm foundation, the Tao of longevity and lasting vision. 60. Ruling a large country is like cooking a small fish. Utilizing the Tao to manage the world, its demons have no power. Not only do its demons have no power, its angels do not harm people. Not only do its angels not harm people, its sages also do not harm people. They both do no harm to one another. So virtue merges and returns. Alhamdulillah Rahman Rahim, Allah Akbar. De sonsta que esse tchela se me fica no que vai dizer não. Da fehda. Ja. Balu khata arunai, Elohim melech alam, ashir sama ba musufa bizman so provide toda. Correlation. Simple master savage together. Sabe sata lo not musufi together. Fagabia. Undu shuba. Fakata. Akwa ba ikena amani. Shisha, Kamasmida, Domo Arigato, Kiloma Yellow, Talk, Adoption Good, Gallows in the French versus Good in the Gap. Akajama, Yadafan, I hope, Teaching. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Zaijian, Adios, Te Jagaris, Asmugu, Kelewi Fred. Love, peace.